Today we will be continuing part 10 of this manhwa. Somewhere in the control room, Dong Qingxue and Qin Xiaojun had been keeping a record of the training camp progress. Today, 2 more students couldn't hold on and applied for withdrawal from the camp. Dong Qingxue casually threw the 2 documents aside and said indifferently. Holding the coffee, Qin Xiaojun comforted his expression casually. They are all pampered at home, and the geniuses in the city are highly anticipated. Normally, they can't stand the anger here. They can't stand this bit of anger? They can't stand this difficulty? After that, can they persevere when they go to the battlefield and fight against alien beasts with real swords and spears? Dong Qingxue said with a sneer. A genius in the safe zone is never a genius. Only a genius who has experienced the baptism of the battlefield is a real genius. You are too serious. Qin Xiaojun shook his head and said, the quality of this class of students is quite good. I estimate that at least 80% of them will last until the day the camp is closed. Hopefully. Look at the G-Force room and the movement studio. People are working hard to set new records. A hint of surprise appeared on Qin Xiaojun's face. He clicked on the message, and the words that first caught his eyes made him happy. Someone has refreshed the historical record of the gravity training room. Qin Xiaojun said something. Dong Qingxue, who was at the side, immediately became interested. So fast? Who? Chao Yong? This kid is okay, Qi Ming taught him well, and I can find time to invite him to a meal later. Qin Xiaojun's expression became more and more strange after reading the news. He suddenly raised his head, looked at Dong Qingxue dazedly, and said, It's not Chao Yong, it's someone you never imagined. I absolutely can't think of it. Dong Qingxue was a little puzzled. Who is it? Qin Xiaojun looked into Dong Qingxue's eyes and said word by word. It's Lu Xing. Dong Qingxue just drank the coffee in her mouth and sprayed it all over the place. Who? Lu Xing? That kid is out of customs. After staying in his room for more than a month, can you still break the record? Dong Qingxue asked a series of questions, his face full of disbelief. Qin Xiaojun nodded and thought. It seems that he has not been completely abandoned for more than a month. Coupled with his original strength, it is still possible to create this achievement. Dong Qingxue held the cup, wiped her mouth, and said, That's right. But this kid still gave us a big surprise. It looks like the Whetstone project can continue. Dong Qingxue smiled and said confidently, Since Lu Xing is back, that's even better. I'm worried that Xiao Lin's strength has improved too fast, and no one in the training camp can put any pressure on her. As they were talking, a crisp and pleasant sound resounded in the room. This voice seemed to have some kind of special magic, which attracted Qin Xiaojun and Dong Qingxue to look at the computer screen together. Qin Xiaojun didn't know what kind of mood he was in, so he slowly moved the mouse and clicked on the message. When the words eightfold gravity and Lu Xing jumped into the eyes of him and Dong Qingxue in the news, their expressions suffocated. Dong Qingxue was also shocked, not knowing how to answer Qin Xiaojun. I have to go to the gravity training room to see. Qin Xiaojun couldn't hold back and said quickly. Dong Qingxue's eyes flickered, and she also stood up. I will go with you. Lu Xing's body maintained a slightly bent posture, slowly resisting and adapting to the pressure on his body. The breath of the earth has been used to the extreme by him. With continued use under high gravitational pressure, Lu Xing's understanding of the breath of the earth has gradually become deeper. It's almost the limit. Lu Xing thought silently in his heart. After all, a multi-gravity environment is not actual combat, but the test is the blood, physique, and will of the warrior. With this kind of pressure applied evenly to all parts of the body, techniques like stellar power have no effect at all. Then try that trick. Lu Xing took a deep breath, and his spiritual power quickly entered his body like flowing water, reaching the position of his heart. Mental power turned into silk, and in just a few breaths, an invisible heart identical to Lu Xing was woven. This hidden heart, which almost represents the achievements of Lu Xing's non-stop day and night efforts for more than a month, overlaps perfectly with Lu Xing's original heart. Both hearts beat in unison. In an instant, a majestic force spewed out of Lu Xing's heart. In the tranquil environment, Lu Xing could almost hear the sound of blood rushing and roaring in the blood vessels. That is his soaring blood value. As the blood value increases, the pressure brought by 8 times the gravity also becomes lighter. Just after the construction of the heart part, the qi and blood have been enhanced by nearly 10%. The effect of the Divine Illumination Sutra is terrifying. Lu Xing's eyes were firm, and he straightened his back little by little. 8 times the gravity. Outside the room, a person looked sluggish and whispered, "He wants to stand up." A group of people with shock and incredible expressions on their faces have been unable to find suitable words to describe the specific feelings in their hearts at this time. Lu Xing slowly stretched his body bound by gravity. Qi and blood are the foundation of a warrior, and the increase in the value of qi and blood can improve the strength of a warrior in all aspects. Nearly 10% of the increase in qi and blood value brought a huge improvement to Lu Xing. And unlike techniques such as star power, this increase does not require any physical fitness. It is also different from the ordinary qi and blood augmentation methods. The augmentation of the Divine Illumination Sutra has no side effects and lasts longer. Lu Xing can feel that his spiritual power is slowly being consumed, and this increase will always exist until his spiritual power is completely consumed. With the prompt sound, everyone's eyes unconsciously look toward the display screen outside the room. Many people's hearts are slightly suspended, for fear that the number on the display will jump up one grid accidentally. Under 8 times the gravity, persists for 4 minutes, he can't still be thinking about increasing it, right? Just a moment later, huge cracks appeared on the window of the gravity room. Everyone close to the window was confused and looked at Lu Xing dazedly. Just then, a sudden pressure coming out of the gravity room pushed all of them to their knees. Someone shouted, "What is going on? We are outside the gravity room, but there is such great pressure. Lu Xing, just what is he trying to do?" In an instant, everyone fell silent. Their eyes were fixed on the small display screen, and their expression was like seeing a ghost. They tried to choke out a sentence, but couldn't get a word out of it. They saw that on the small display, a line of clear words displayed. 10 times gravity is on. Lu Xing was also forced down on his knees by the gravitational force. The floor inside the gravity room collapsed under the huge pressure of 10 times gravity, and Lu Xing lay down flat on the floor. A lot of thoughts came to Lu Xing's mind. It is so intense. Every single cell in my body is crying out loud. My body feels like it is going to coagulate. It's taking all my energy to remain conscious, let alone move even an inch. This is the 10-time gravitational force. It is completely beyond the realm I can handle. A voice rose in my heart. This is exactly what I want. Lu Xing realized something to achieve something he need this kind of pressure to push himself forward. What kind of person does it take to change the future and overturn this doomed ending? Is it someone who learned high-ranking martial arts? Someone with an incredible talent? Or a person who had unlimited resources? A lot of questions rose in Lu Xing's heart as he tried his best to stand under the pressure of gravitational force. The accurate answer is someone who can surpass their limits. Suddenly the answer rose in his heart, and with his pure willpower, Lu Xing could stand under this huge pressure. Under a series of huge shocks, any words and expressions seemed too pale. They just want to be sure of one thing right now. Are they dreaming right now? Is there such a possibility that I fell asleep tiredly in the process of practicing hard, and now I am still living in a dream without being woken up? Yan Yuan covered her mouth tightly with both hands, afraid that she would be too excited, and couldn't help but cry out. In her beautiful eyes, there was only the young man in the one-way glass who was trying to get up from the ground little by little. Why was he so excited when he saw Lu Xing's return? Is it just because they are from Baihe City? Maybe even Yan Yuan didn't realize this problem. As she looked at him, a voice rose in her heart. The monster, Lu Xing, is back. Indeed, almost everyone who has been in a gravity practice room knows. In that kind of environment, to reach the limit of physical strength, it isn't easy to move even a little finger, and someone outside has to help them turn off gravity. On the other hand, Lu Xing not only can stand up but also able to walk up to the gravity control button. Later, the door to the gravity chamber slowly opened from the inside. Everyone's expressions froze, and then they saw a tall and handsome young man walking out of the room calmly. Lu Xing saw a group of black people around the door. His face did not fluctuate. After he stopped cultivating, he let go of his highly concentrated mental power, and he had already noticed the existence of these people. As he came out of the room, two hands reached out to Lu Xing with a towel. Lu Xing towel. A pretty girl took the initiative to hand a clean white towel to Lu Xing. The girl's face was flushed red, and she was so excited that he was incoherent. A few people next to him even looked envious. Lu Xing was stunned for a while, then quickly took the towel, nodded at the boy, and said, "Thank you." He vaguely remembered these boys and girls, who seemed to be one of the students who came to participate in the training in Baihe City this time. No thanks, it should be. It seemed that Lu Xing took his towel, which was an extremely honorable and very face-saving thing for him. Lu Xing grabbed the towel to wipe the sweat off his body and turned to check the results on the display. After seeing the specific statistical time, Lu Xing showed a regretful expression on his face. If I knew that it took so much time, I would not deduct points for 3 hours. My points would not have been wasted in vain. Lu Xing remembered something, took out his ID card, and swiped it on the display. He should have broken the gravity chamber record this time. If I remember correctly, breaking the record is rewarded with points. A value pops up on the display. Remaining points, 4,335 points. Lu Xing hadn't spoken yet when a breathless voice came from behind him. What, his points over 1,000? All of our points added together would not even amount to half of his. Many people subconsciously reached out and touched the ID cards in their pockets. A number jumped out of their hearts, and then a sad expression appeared on their faces. It is estimated that the points of everyone present are all added up, which is less than half of Lu Xing's. More than 4,000 points. Lu Xing nodded, almost enough to splurge on himself. Even if you stay in the training room every day until the end of the training camp, these points may not be spent. Where to go next? Lu Xing thought for a while and quickly determined the direction. The crowd spread out, like a tide splitting to both sides, spontaneously making way for Lu Xing. Lu Xing walked in one direction at will, with a light breeze all over his body. A group of people around followed closely and deliberately kept a certain distance from it. Where is he going? Let's follow after him. Yan Yuan was standing dazedly continuously staring at Lu Xing, the boy from the same city, become the best heaven-defying genius in the camp. What a domineering presence, he is head and shoulder above all others. The scene is like a tiger going out in the forest, with all the animals behind him. The girl beside Yang Yuan voiced out her thoughts. Lu Xing has strength-type talent, right? To think he broke so many records. Could it be that his vitality has reached rank 4? Yang Yuan, who was still staring in the direction Lu Xing went after hearing the girl, came to realize something, and instantly thought. Strength-type talent, the direction he is headed to is the footwork training room. In one of the footwork training rooms, Meng Jinhe had been training to complete level 2 of his footwork training. Inside the training room, several red lasers can be seen, which seemed to be chasing Meng Jinhe. He had been efficiently trying to dodge each laser charged at him. After dodging for quite some time, he got hit by the laser due to exhaustion, and the training ended. Suddenly an AI voice came notifying Meng Jinhe. The training is over. The results of this training. The second stage is 87% complete. Congratulations to the martial artist. Your body technique has exceeded 52% of the trainers. The pleasant reminder sounded, and Meng Jinhe stopped with a smile on his face. With this training, the completion of the second stage increased by another 6%. It is said that every performance of the martial artist in the body technique training room will be uploaded to the Wuming terminal to obtain his world ranking in the body technique. The results from the footwork training hall are constantly been updated on the World Martial Alliance's framework. I have already surpassed half of the people in this whole world. That has got to be at least a few billion, right? Meng Jinhe had a sinister smile on his face and thought in his heart. As expected, humans are not born equal. Having speed-type talent and private instructions from instructor Qin Xiaojun, the distance between me and others is way beyond measure. Meng Jinhe continued his thoughts as he walked towards the training room door. Just watching me train is enough to bring unexpected benefits to ordinary martial artists. Surrounded by a great sense of accomplishment and self-satisfaction, Meng Jinhe walked out of the training room lightly. He was ready to meet all kinds of admiration from those outside the door. But the expected picture did not happen. The training room was empty, and the group of people who used to wait at the door was not there. What happened? Meng Jinhe was a little puzzled. Since he was still working so hard in the training room just now, he just wanted to shock other people. Unexpectedly, there is no one who dares to wink at the blind. Even Instructor Dong and Instructor Qin are here. What is everyone looking at? Is it an instructor demonstration? A load of questions rose in Meng Jinhe's heart. Meng Jinhe froze in place, not knowing how to express his expression. Meng Jinhe hurriedly walked towards that location. When he arrived at the place, Meng Jinhe glanced at the dense crowd, found the group of people who were usually with him, and joined him. Hey, what is going on? What are you guys looking at? Meng Jinhe grabbed a person's shoulder. Meng Jinhe was a little impatient. Lu Xing, we are looking at Lu Xing. Lu Xing has entered. Meng Jinhe quickly replied. Lu Xing? That sleepyhead from Baihe City? Meng Jinhe was stunned for a moment, and then laughed. Don't you think Lu Xing can break my record? Crazy? The man who answered him looked him up and down with a strange look, and turned his head away from him, saying, Who are you? Meng Jinhe felt inexplicable. Just as they were talking, the entire training hall was filled with red lights. The boy instantly looked forward and shouted out, What the? What happened? Meng Jinhe was also surprised. Both of their mouths and eyes were wide open, as though they have witnessed something monstrous. A voice rose in his heart. No way, that's... Every single laser launcher is on full power? He could not believe his eyes. Inside the training room. If any part of the body touches the light, it will be considered a failure. The difficulty of training will gradually increase in stages. Lu Xing carefully read the introduction to the rules of the practice room and had a general understanding of the rules of this practice room. So, I just have to avoid every single laser beam, right? After reading the instructions, Lu Xing voiced out his thoughts. The walls around the practice room were covered with round holes the size of thumbs. It is densely packed, adding up to tens of thousands. It appears that each of these circular holes could potentially emit light. Looks like there is no way to predict where the laser beams will be fired from. In this way, being unable to predict which direction the light will come out from is also one of the difficulties of physical training. But this difficulty for me, it doesn't exist. Lu Xing thought, reached out, and pressed the training start button. Lu Xing thought about it. He stood there and tilted his head, and a red light brushed his ears and shot on the opposite wall. Mental strength. Lu Xing's huge spiritual power enveloped the entire body technique training room, accurately grasping the changes of each laser probe. A beeping sound like a machine is turned on. In the next second, several laser probes on the wall emitted red light, shooting out several red rays, shooting straight at Lu Xing. It turned out to be like this, so you just need to avoid the rays, right? Lu Xing turned his body slightly, and the red line swept past him. Lu Xing managed to dodge every light beam efficiently, without much effort. To him, who had trained his body and senses through stellar body technique, these light beams were too slow. Before the red light is emitted, he can easily know the direction of all the rays of light. It's still a bit difficult for me to predict the opponent's attack by capturing the changes in the opponent's muscles and expressions during battle. But if it's a machine, it's not too easy. Lu Xing stood in the center of the room, thinking about this, while moving his body at will, avoiding the rays of light. His posture was calm, as if he was not doing physical training, but just got up early to do morning exercises in the park. Outside the training room, a group of onlookers looked at each other. They looked at each other and saw deep shock in their eyes. How did he do it? Someone couldn't help but ask questions. No one could answer. Even Ming Jinhe, who has always been a self-proclaimed genius with great self-confidence, was stunned. Walking into the body technique training room, who was not attentive, trembling, and highly nervous? There are tens of thousands of laser probes in the training room, and no one knows which probes will emit light in the next moment. And as long as one is not careful, it is slightly wiped by the light. Are you sure this is the first time he entered the body method training room? Ming Jinhe questioned the boys around him in disbelief. The boy nodded with a complicated expression. Yes, all of us followed him. Before coming here, Lu Xing was in the gravity training room and broke the gravity record by enduring 10 times gravitational force. Ming Jinhe stopped talking. He fell on his knees. Looking at the figure in the room strolling under the elusive rays of light, he fell into deep self-doubt. Isn't he strength type? Wasn't he sleeping for a whole month? How can there be such a tremendous gap between us? Several questions rose in Jinhe's mind. How did this kid do it? Is he doing physical training for the first time? Dong Qinxue stared closely at Lu Xing in the surveillance, and said in disbelief, Why does it look like he has practiced hundreds of times before? Oh no, he can't do it so easily after practicing hundreds of times. Although the training in the first stage is not difficult, the ray arrangement of each training is random and irregular. How could he seem to know where each light would come out? Dong Qinxue was staring at the screen, looking up from time to time. Regarding Lu Xing's peculiarity, she had a faint guess in her heart, but she was quickly rejected by her. Battle intuition. This kid's actual combat ability is super strong, and his natural combat intuition is not weak. It's not a big deal for him to want to do this. Dong Qinxue explained slowly. 6 red rays shot out at the same time and swept towards Lu Xing staggered. Lu Xing can only rely on his nerve reaction and movement speed to avoid. Just then, as Dong Qinxue was monitoring Lu Xing, a ray of light shot at him from behind. He slightly tilted his head to dodge it without any sort of effort. Dong Qinxue, who had been monitoring Lu Xing, comparing him to Xiao Len from time to time, was rather stunned with her eyes wide open. She came to realize, what Lu Xing used was not his battle intuition, rather it was foresight, an ability that only psychic masters can muster. Witnessing Lu Xing's reaction speed had clarified her wild guesses. Lu Xing was quite calm under the level 2 footwork test. He didn't even force his body technique out at all. What about training? It seems that I can't keep cheating by mental power like this, otherwise it won't have the effect of training at all. I can use it when necessary. Lu Xing thought about it, and the spiritual power that enveloped the training room quietly shrank back. Suddenly, Lu Xing's expression changed slightly. He noticed that not long after his mental power was withdrawn, another mental power immediately took over the training room, and even swept around himself, unscrupulously. Judging from the strength of mental power, it should be Dong Qinxue. An idea suddenly popped into Lu Xing's mind. If Dong Qinxue is here, it seems that I can implement my plan. Meanwhile, practice outdoors. Qin Xiaojun noticed Dong Qinxue and said, What are you doing? Nothing. A wave of fluctuations flashed across Dong Qinxue's face, and she secretly said in her heart, I thought too much. I already tested him having no trace of psychic energy before. Why do I have an urge of testing him again? Without taking care of Dong Qinxue, Lu Xing focused his attention back on the movement training in front of him. Lu Xing passed the first 60% of the second stage of training with a calm expression on his face. Until 60%, his expression became a little serious. After breaking through the first bottleneck period, the movement method was stuck in the second bottleneck period, but he was still able to face second stage. As the number of rays increases, the sweep speed also increases. Lu Xing gradually felt that his movement technique, which was stuck in the second bottleneck period, was a little loose. His accumulation is too strong. As long as there is a little pressure, breaking through is quite simple. But just when Lu Xing began to look forward to and excited, The ray's momentum came to an abrupt end. Lu Xing was stunned for a moment, then quickly reacted. The second stage of training is all over. It's over! Lu Xing has completed all the movement training in the second stage. Except for a few excited people, many people were dumbfounded and looked at each other, but they didn't react. The crowd banged, and then a fierce exclamation broke out. Damn it, the second stage of body training has been completed like this? I didn't even pay attention. The onlookers talked a lot. In addition to being surprised, it was more surprising and puzzled. In their opinion, Lu Xing's second stage movement training just now was completely different from the second stage movement training in their impressions. Not far away, Qin Xiaojun and Dong Qingxue were also watching this scene. Dong Qingxue's eyes narrowed slightly, and she said, "Do you see it?" Qin Xiaojun nodded and replied with a somewhat complicated expression. Perfect body method. And it's not a normal perfect body method. I guess it's been a while since I entered the perfect state, otherwise, it wouldn't be so easy. Dong Qingxue couldn't help but sigh. Perfect realm boxing technique, perfect realm movement technique. How on earth did this kid cultivate? He has never been on the battlefield, so can in the safe zone anyone will be able to practice to this level at this age? Qin Xiaojun said helplessly. You have to admit that there are indeed a small group of people in this world who have talents that are several times, or even 10 times, more than ordinary people in certain aspects. Do you still think Xiaolin can beat him now? Dong Qingxue didn't answer, but said lightly, Keep watching. Suddenly a voice came ringing. Stage of footwork and movement training will commence. The attack method of the machines changed, it became more dangerous and critical. There are very thousands of spherical objects that charged at Lu Xing. Outside among the onlookers, Meng Jinhe was still in a state of confusion. He stood there dumbfounded, unable to accept what he saw. He gritted his teeth as he said, Is that what stage 3 is like? Isn't it way too difficult? At this time, in the training room, Lu Xing has already begun to face the third stage of movement training. From the perspective of the onlookers, it is obvious that the sense of ease in Lu Xing's body is quickly disappearing this time. The training difficulty of the third stage is several times higher than that of the second stage. The red rays are crisscrossed and elusive. Even if you look at them, you can feel a great pressure coming towards you. Many times, everyone almost thought that Lu Xing was going to fail. But in the next second, they saw him dodging dangerously. The whole process was fraught with dangers, and people couldn't help but sweat for him. It is starting to get tough. This time, the laser beams are seen positioned in a way to prevent me from dodging. Not bad, I will try putting in some real effort. Several thoughts rose in Lu Xing's mind. Even though everyone was looking in anticipation at him, Lu Xing himself was only doing warm-ups up until now. The life experiences that he gained through the dream world were enough for him to reach this stage. In the distance, Lu Xing, who was in the training room, seemed to have regained his sense of ease in the second stage. Finally broke through into the micro-realm of body training. Lu Xing breathed a sigh of relief, and there was a trace of joy in his brows. He just deliberately pressed himself, without using any additional means, and simply relied on his movement to avoid the rays. As a result, the second bottleneck period of the body method was successfully broken through. At this level of movement, his body's instinctive response has reached an unimaginable height. Even beyond the speed of neural responses. There is almost no need to think, and the body subconsciously evades perfectly. With such a movement technique, in the dream space, I can even try to challenge the master-level zombies. As Lu Xing thought about it, he carefully felt the different experiences brought by this state of movement. How long has it been since they finished talking about the perfect state of the body? That's a subtle realm. Even the veterans who have been on the battlefield, those martial artists of the 4th and 5th levels. How many of them can refine the body technique to the subtle state? And Lu Xing was astonished to achieve it like this? I remember when I was only 22 years old when I broke through into the subtle realm. Qin Xiaojun spoke. Dong Qingxue glanced at him and said indifferently, I was 25 when I did. But I'm a goddamn speed-type talent martial artist. Speed type. Naturally, it has a bonus to body technique training. Xiaojun became mad and wanted to reach out and scratch his head. How old is this kid? 17. Also a powerful talent. Is this reasonable? Do you think this is reasonable? In the training room, when the completion of stage 3 reached 15%, a ray of light suddenly reached close to Lu Xing's eyes. Lu Xing was barely able to dodge the ray of light. I am feeling the difficulty now. Just relying on my psychic foresight is not enough. Lu Xing had a thought in his mind. Outside the training room, Qin Xiaojun had stuck his eyes on Lu Xing. He had been noticing any changes in Lu Xing's body. Lu Xing is not looking super relaxed anymore. At this time, in the practice room, dozens of rays are densely interwoven into a net shape, and the grid between rays is no more than the size of a square. The speed is also astonishingly fast, almost instantaneously. Lu Xing, who had just broken through the new realm of movement and regained a sense of ease, immediately felt the pressure. Lu Xing took a deep breath. The rhythm of his breathing changed miraculously at this moment. Switch, breath of the wind! In an instant, Lu Xing's body seemed to be surrounded by a breeze. In a moment, the originally extremely fast speed of Lu Xing suddenly became a little faster, and the completion of stage 3 instantly reached 62%. This is the second special breathing method that Lu Xing has learned in this month-long retreat, breath of the wind. In the eyes of outsiders, Lu Xing's speed at this time has become a phantom. They couldn't see Lu Xing's body movements at all. Many people looked at the rays as fine with shocked and confused expressions. They simply cannot understand. With such a small distance, you can't touch a single point if you rely on your movement to avoid it. At this moment, Lu Xing's figure quickly became tall and distant in the eyes of the students, with a strong sense of mystery lingering all over his body. This kid is not only in a subtle state, but his physical quality and body reaction speed are also terrifyingly fast. It is not something that ordinary third-level warriors can achieve. Qin Xiaojun smacked his lips and sighed. After the continuous breakthrough, the training in the third stage also became simpler. 80%, 100% with a soft sound. The third stage of body training is over. Lu Xing stopped the swing of his body, breathed gently, and silently recovered his strength. It is the coming of a new generation. He showed us all today. He looks exhausted now. Let's go back now. Qin Xiaojun turned around and spoke. Dong Qingxue suddenly revealed her mental power, and surprisingly found that Lu Xing is still going. No, it seems Lu Xing is going to continue, Dong Qingxue said calmly. The sound rose from the screen. Stage 4 of footwork training will now commence. Qin Xiaojun was also a little surprised, and hurriedly fixed his eyes on the monitoring screen on the screen. Soon, his eyes widened, and a trace of shock crept into his pupils as he shouted, "No way, even I have only just begun stage 4 footwork training myself. He is trying to go through all of this in one day." Dong Qingxue did not speak and silently looked at Lu Xing with anticipation. She wanted to see what he is capable of. At this time, Lu Xing in the practice room has already begun to face the fourth stage of movement training. As stage 4 commenced, some controllers on the floor and walls got activated, and they suddenly rose in the air. Lu Xing got startled at first, but instantly managed to dodge. Lu Xing's dodging is getting harder and harder. They seem to be swept at the same time, but in fact, there is still a distinction between fast and slow. What Lu Xing had to do was take advantage of this time difference to quickly avoid one ray after another. The ray formed a web-like structure to restrict Lu Xing's movements. You can imagine how difficult this is. As the stage continued, the formation of rays became more difficult. Some from outside blurted, "What is that? Is it even possible to dodge that?" Their eyes were wide open. Even Ming Jinhe, who had watched Lu Xing, now seemed to be convinced by Lu Xing's prowess, but the mechanism of the training room's different stages still haunted him. He could not believe the difficulty to be this high. Also, Qin Xiaojun is now focusing more on Lu Xing's body movements. Lu Xing has reached subtle realm. Let's see what he can do now. The speed bonus of breath of the wind is not enough. Lu Xing's breathing became more and more rapid, and more sweat was seeping from his body, but his crystal-clear eyes became brighter and brighter, like the stars in the sky. I'm getting close to my real limit. Lu Xing narrowly avoided a ray again. He glanced at the data on the wall of the room. The completion of the 4th stage was 30%. Lu Xing took a deep breath, and a dazzling light suddenly appeared in his eyes. Just do your best. The next breath, the huge mental power in his mind burst out. The 2 spiritual forces entrenched in the air around him were squeezed out by his explosion. In his chest, 2 hearts thumped, blood roaring low in the blood vessels. At this moment, Lu Xing felt that the wall was rapidly moving away from him. Everything in front of me is magnifying and slowing down. It was the technique of divine illumination of the King of Hell. Lu Xing raised his both hands sideways and released his enormous psychic energy, covering his whole body with it. Lu Xing could see the red rays of light moving toward him at a rather slow speed. This feeling is very strange, as if the flow of time has been slowed down. A burst of enlightenment rose in Lu Xing's heart, recalling the information about spiritual masters he had inquired about through the light brain in the dream space. This state, if I remember correctly, is described in the professional term of a spiritual master. It should be called the sense of time. The feeling of time being stretched. Spiritual power achieves a qualitative change. And this kind of qualitative change usually only happens in the 3rd-level spiritual master. That is to say, Lu Xing, who has been cultivating the advanced chapter of crystal visualization method for more than a month, Diamond View Ideas, has finally officially stepped into the ranks of 3rd-level spiritual masters. Meanwhile, outside the practice room, a huge roar alarmed everyone in the venue. Everyone looked suspiciously in the direction where the sound erupted. They saw that the chief instructor of their genius training camp, Dong Qingxue, was standing not far from them, staring at the direction of the training room with a strange expression. Under Dong Qingxue's feet, the hard ground tiles shattered into large cobweb-like appearances, and waves of terrifying and huge fluctuations of qi and blood were wantonly erupting from Dong Qingxue's body. So you are a psychic master, Lu Xing? Dong Qingxue had a smile on her face as she voiced out her words subconsciously. Qin Xiaojun was stunned as he looked at Qingxue, whose whole body was emitting huge waves of psychic energy. A huge spiritual figure appeared around Dong Qingxue, forged out of her psychic energy. Are you crazy? Qin Xiaojun let out a low voice in disbelief, not paying attention to anyone. Dong Qingxue stared at the training room for a long time, turning a deaf ear to all the reactions around her. I want to test him once more, Dong Qingxue said in response to Qin Xiaojun. She released her psychic figure to enter the training room. It passed straight through the glass window. Inside the room, it can be seen that Lu Xing was calm enough to avoid all the laser beams after his breakthrough. As he was practicing, he noticed some psychic energy around. There seemed to be some sort of energy trying to enter his body. Lu Xing gave a smile as he figured out Dong Qingxue's psychic energy, and raised his hand in response. With the slash of his hand, he cut through the spiritual figure, which results in it being disintegrated. It led to a huge shock to Dong Qingxue's mind as her psychic figure got destroyed. She instantly felt a huge shock, bending down with a hand on her heart, trying to bear the mental pain. Dong Qingxue slowly turned her head, looked Qin Xiaojun directly in the eyes, and said softly in a low and strange tone, Lu Xing is a spiritual teacher, and his spiritual strength not inferior to me. What? Qin Xiaojun snorted as if he didn't understand. You can look, but you can't touch. Lu Xing, who had already noticed Dong Qingxue's existence from the start, was easily able to understand the situation. I am at my limit. I did not expect activating time sense for the first time would drain so much psychic energy. On top of that, someone even interfered with my training. I am halfway through stage 4 and I had already used both breaths of wind and divine illumination. That's as far as my vitality can go now. Lu Xing thought to himself. He then walked forward. A round of ray nets swept through quickly. Lu Xing's body suddenly froze, then quickly relaxed and stood quietly in place. Lu Xing's expression was a little regretful, but he also realized that he had indeed reached his limit. Lu Xing looked at the final score on the status screen of the room. The training is over. The results of this training, the completion of the 4th stage is 56%. Congratulations to the martial artist. Your body technique has exceeded 97% of the trainers. A melodious beep sounded in the room. The crowd watching at the door has long been petrified. Their mouths opened wide, their expressions exaggerated as if they had just been punched in the forehead. They watched Lu Xing come out of the training room, and the sound of the result announcement just echoed in their minds. How many warriors are there in the world? There must be hundreds of millions of them. Lu Xing is already ahead of hundreds of millions of people in terms of body skills. Especially Meng Jinhe, his head was dizzy. He remembered that his previous report was that he surpassed 52% of the world's warriors, and Lu Xing was 97%. He and Lu Xing differed by 45%. Meng Jinhe's pride and self-esteem were shattered. When Lu Xing listened to the final report, he secretly reminded himself. There is still a full 3% of people who are stronger than themselves in physical skills. How many warriors are there in the world? 3% must have hundreds of millions. I am still weak and need to work harder. Thinking about it, Lu Xing pushed open the door of the movement practice room and stepped out. As he stepped out, Lu Xing had his psychic power revolving around him. Dong Qingxue instantly congratulated Lu Xing for breaking 2 records in a single day. Dong Qingxue was also looking at Lu Xing, and her beautiful eyes were filled with splendor. She knew very well what Lu Xing meant by releasing his spiritual power. It was an ancient etiquette among spiritual masters to greet each other by releasing their spiritual powers. Dong Qingxue's mental power was instantly withdrawn, and she turned to leave immediately. It seemed like she had recognized Lu Xing's existence. That's all for today. If you like the next part of this manhwa, just comment below. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to like, subscribe and comment for getting epic content on this channel. See you next time.